Good evening, everyone. My name is Flavia Teixeira, and today is the 10th of May 2022. We will study continues our study, what is Spiritism? So today we're going to do the pages 165 to pages 170. So I hope everyone had a great week, and thanks for being here with us and joining us on this study. So last week, we're still talking about elementary notions of Spiritism. So we're just going to finish off this topic of the Spiritism so on the previous class, we talked about the communications with the invisible world and how communications happens. We talked about mediums, the role of the spirits in the mind and the spiritual communication, and the types of the spirits who communicate. And today's lessons, we're actually going to talk about these communications. So communications with the invisible world. So Kardec puts on John's chapter 4, versicle 1, it states, "Do not believe in every spirit, but test the spirit to see if they are of God. Experience has proven the wisdom of this advice. Thus, it would be imprudent and thoughtless to accept everything that comes from spirits without testing it first." And as we talked about this last class, if you think that most of the spirits that communicate with us, they were alive, like they were normal people like us. So when they die, they just transition from the spiritual world, from the material world back to the spiritual world. So, and because they disincarnate, it doesn't mean they become better spirits. The way they were in here on earth is the way they are in the spiritual world. And of course, some of them have maybe started to evolve or study, but in general, they are the same people. They're not going to become more enlightened because they actually moved to the spiritual world. So, and also the message, so they pass, we can figure out, what kind of spirit it is. So if we consider the soul's unit with the fluidic same material body, in which it forms a physical individual being, its communications with the living hold nothing incompatible with reason. So we have to remember that when the spirits disincarnate, we have this fluid body, which is our perispirit. So while the spirits still have a need to reincarnate, they will keep this fluid body. So light spirits that don't need to reincarnate anymore, they don't hold this spirit, this fluidic body anymore. And this fluidic body, it stays at the spiritual realm. And when we reincarnate, is that connection between the soul and the material body. So, and that's for, like, we have to remember the spirits, and that's why also spirits tend to keep its form. So the perispirit, so when they disincarnate, they're trying to keep the form or how they look in the previous life. So Kardec says the quality of spirits may be determined by their language. So the language of truly good, high-order spirits is always dignified, noble, logical, and lacking in contradictions. It displays wisdom, benevolence, modesty, and the purest morality. So, and we can compare with ignorant and proud low order spirits. Most of their communications, the emptiness of their thoughts is almost always made up for by a super abundance of words. So that means they tend to get very difficult words so they can look, like intelligent, but it's just most of the time it's just complicated, and it doesn't actually say as much. So every trace of malevolence, presumptuousness, and arrogance are incontestable signs of the spirit's uninvolved character. So, and that's what it means, like, and the comparison, if you look at those two statements, is most of the high spirits, they're gonna bring good messages, so messages that help us through going through the moments we are in our lives. Comfort, bring hope, bring kindness, and never to bring panic or bring messages that will create mayhem. That's not the main aim. So when we read messages that normally tells dates or say things that might happen. Another thing is, high spirits never say, they never tell us things that might happen, because they know that can create anxiety, can create as I said before, mayhem. So they never say that. So never say, oh, the world, tomorrow we're going to have, or in 10 days we're going to have a massive wind, and many houses will be affected, and that we don't hear that stuff from high spirits. So all order spirits are not downright evil. It's not necessarily that they're not bad, but they're just people like us. And sometimes they, as I said, like, they can be playful. They're just gonna be the way they were when they disincarnated. There are those who are only ignorant and frivolous. Others are facetious, witty, or fun-loving spirits who know how to pull off a cunning, catching joke. So some spirits just enjoy, communicated with the living, and they love to make jokes and play, and so they are, as I said before, the same way they used to be. So nothing changed. So they probably were like that before they disincarnate. They just keep being themselves. Moreover, we may find in the spiritual world, just as on earth, every sort of weakness or every degree of intellectual or moral excellence. High order spirits are concerned solely, with intelligent manifestations, indeed for our instructions. And as I mentioned before, so they're gonna bring us directions. So physical or purely material manifestations are most often assigned to low order spirits, who are commonly calling rapping spirits. So unless these manifestations actually happen within mediums groups for a purpose, high spirits tend to not create physical effects because they don't need to. So all these, and I suppose that when when all these manifestations happen at time of Kardec, it started as to people to start to have awareness that it was more than life, was more than, material life. So that's why the physical manifestation started. But these days, as we already acknowledge the existence of spirits, they don't need to make physical effects to actually to be seen. So we just So communicating with the spirits must always be done calmly and thoughtfully. We must never lose sight of the fact that spirits are souls of men and women, and that it would be inappropriate to make them the object of a game or entertainment. So during communications with the spirits, there's all sorts of spirits, yeah. So like, especially when we are in meetings, depend on the situation, the spirits would come very anxious, and our job is to actually to make them to, understand they were there to help them, and with respect, even though sometimes their language might not be respectful. We shouldn't talk the same way. We should always make sure that we treat them with love and care, and during our communications, and we are there to help them. The communications between the visible and invisible worlds may be secretive or open, spontaneous or induced. The spirits act upon humans secretly through their thoughts they suggest to them and through their certain influences. And this is very important because this might happen to most of the people, like when you think that only a certain percentage of people acknowledge their mediumship and understand that some of the thoughts that come to their heads are actually not their thoughts sometimes. Lots of people actually get messaged and have through the spiritual world, but they don't even acknowledge that. So sometimes when we have a very strange thought, the thought might not belong to us because it's something that we never do. So we have really sometimes to think, for us, most of the people, everyone is medium, like have a certain type, level of mediumship. And the most common one is actually intuition. Intuition it's a very, so everyone have what we call a sixth sense. Like, like when we're in a situation that we have to make choices, normally our sixth sense sort of play. And it's like our minds start to get, should I do it? Should I not do it? So shall I go there? Should I go there? And this is actually, in many cases, can be the communication with our spiritual mentor, helping us on that point and moment. And I personally, how many times I was in, these debates, should I do and do it? And even though my inner self was saying, don't do it, my silly self, just go and do it. And of course, and what happened? The usual, probably doesn't work well. So, most of the mistakes we do in life is because we haven't listened to our inner selves, that little voice that tells us, and we just dismiss kind of the warnings, wherever we can call, and we end up doing, and most of the time we might not be very successful. So we have to always remember they act only through effects discerning to the senses. Yeah, so that's how they normally generally can manifestate with us, even if we don't realize. Manifestations that are included to occur by means of certain individuals endowed with the special faculties for producing such effects, and who are designated by the name of mediums. So, and as probably we said that before anyway, spirits can manifest in different ways by means of hearing, sight, noises, effects, writing, drawings, music, etc. So spirits sometimes manifest spontaneously through noise raps frequently on the way, attesting their presence and calling attention to themselves. Ongoing spreads of sight of spirits is extremely rare. Isolated separations are quite frequent, especially in the time of death. So I'm just looking, sorry guys. I just need to do something because it looks like that it seems so much the, okay. Sorry, I'm just, I'm just keeping, I was just, it looks like I was just, because I did the last class, so it just looks like a little bit the same things we actually talked about before, yeah? So the ongoing and widespread sighting of spirits is extremely rare, but isolated apparitions are quite frequent, especially at the time of death. The liberated spirit seems to be in such a rush to see their relatives and friends again. So, and if they advise them that it has just left Earth, and tell them that it's still alive. Kardec actually wrote one of the books, the 5 books Kardec actually codified was the Hell and Heaven. And Hell and Heaven is actually spirits come back in mediumship, medium meetings to tell how was their passing to the spiritual world. And it's very interesting. And it's very interesting the point of the how they died, or if they died of an illness or something, and the relation of that, how they were in life, or problems, or sometimes things that happen in previous life that justify the way they die. And it's really, really a book that I recommend, because for me was really opened my mind very for the importance of do the right thing, and the choices we make can reflect sometimes, can affect many lives, the choices we make in today. So it was with the help of perispirit that spirits used to act upon its physical body, which is with the same fluid that it continues to manifest itself by acting upon inner matter, producing noises and moving tables, objects, which lifts, knocks down, and carries about. So, so all those manifestations that happen, especially at Kardec time, because we don't see, I suppose, these anymore as much. As I said before, we don't have as much need anymore for those manifestations. Is actually to do with this fluidic body that we all have, like called perispirit, that which stays with the spirit until we disincarnate. It stays with the spirit, incarnated or disincarnated. So we also helps the perispirit, that the spirits enable a medium to write, speak, and draw. And that's the, you know, there are mediums that are able to, the spirit can use the voices and their hands and their body. Sometimes medium is just used, the thought comes through the mind. So not having a tangible body to act ostensibly, when it wants to manifest, is use the medium's body and borrows organs in which it acts as if it were their own body by means fluidic emanation and pours out over the medium. The spirits and its spirit will keep the same appearance it had when they were alive, and the way it would be seen at the moment they could be invisible. So the same applies to written communications. The spirit should be thought as being the medium sides guiding through. So as we mentioned before, the spirits doesn't change just because, you know, they don't live in the material world anymore. We have to remember that we are spirit also, apart from this material body. So so one can see by these few explanations that there is nothing supernatural external about the manifestation. They are the phenomena induced according to the law that governs and exchange the visible and invisible world. Like there is gravity, as I say. Spiritism is the science that enables us to know about this law, just the mechanics enable us to know the law of motions. So we know the spirit manifestation have two types: physical effect and intelligent effect. And the former are material extensive, such as movements, noise, carrying out objects. Later consisting in the normal permutation of thoughts and help us signs, words, and specifically writing. So okay, so I just to remind us that it's very important to remember that the spirits don't change, like they are the same. It's very important for us to know how to actually to filter the difference between the spirits and the communications. It's very important for us to know how to communicate and to understand the message. And I think these Kardec tells over and over and over again about what kind of spirits that when we making this communication with the spirits, what we should take in consideration, or how we can address. So we have to actually to classify them in a sense, like do I believe or not, filtering their message. And I think this is the most important thing that we always have to remember. So I hope you enjoy our talk. We will be back on next week for another study, which is going to be from page, what is the Spiritism, for page 171 to page 175. I hope that you connect with us. and see you next week for another study. Thank you very much. I hope everyone have a beautiful week, a safe week, and peace be with all of us. Thank you.